Why do we do what we do? That's the question Robert Sapolsky explores in Behave, a massive, brilliant, and often surprising journey into the science of human behavior. From brain chemistry and hormones to childhood experiences and cultural history, Sapolsky dissects human actions, from acts of compassion to moments of violence, and helps us understand them from every layer of our biology and environment. This is not a light read, but it's one of the most enlightening. Let's break it down into the most essential and powerful insights. 1. The last second before you act. Sapolsky starts by examining behavior in reverse, beginning with what happens in the moment a decision is made. In the second before we do something, say, raise our voice or offer help, a cascade of brain activity occurs. The amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and mirror neurons all play roles in weighing emotion, logic, empathy, and memory. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, your immediate limbic system reaction might be anger, but your prefrontal cortex steps in to regulate that anger and consider the consequences of lashing out. So, our most human behaviors, the ones we regret or are proud of, depend heavily on which parts of our brain win that tiny battle in the moment. 2. Hormones, the chemical middle ground. Go back a few minutes before any action, and you'll find hormones already shaping your choices. Take testosterone, often associated with aggression. Sapolsky reveals that it doesn't cause aggression directly, but rather amplifies pre-existing tendencies. If someone is already in a dominant or aggressive state, testosterone makes them more so. But if they're calm and cooperative, it can enhance those traits too. Oxytocin, commonly called the love hormone, promotes bonding and trust, but only within your group. It can make people more distrustful of outsiders. Even compassion has boundaries shaped by biology. Hormones don't control us, but they bias our emotional filters, influencing how we see the world. 3. Childhood, wiring the brain. If you rewind further, say, years, you'll find behavior rooted in developmental experiences. Childhood trauma, neglect, and abuse can alter the architecture of the brain, especially in areas like the amygdala and hippocampus, which regulate fear and memory. These early influences often determine how reactive we are, how we perceive threats, and how we manage stress. Even the presence or absence of secure attachment in early life can shape a person's empathy, resilience, and ability to connect. Sapolsky emphasizes that nurture literally becomes nature. Our experiences sculpt the biology that will one day influence our actions. 4. Genes and epigenetics. Of course, behavior is also influenced by genes, but not in a deterministic way. Sapolsky shows that genes are not destiny. Instead, they provide a set of probabilities and interact constantly with the environment. A child may inherit a gene associated with anxiety, but whether that trait emerges depends on parenting, nutrition, social support, and even chance. Even more fascinating is epigenetics, the way life experiences can turn genes on or off without changing DNA. Trauma, chronic stress, or enriched environments can all influence which genetic potentials are expressed. In other words, biology is not a fixed script. It's a dynamic, living conversation between nature and nurture. 5. The power and limits of the brain. The human prefrontal cortex, the part that governs self-control, empathy, long-term thinking, is the last to mature in life and the first to shut down under stress. This matters because in high-pressure situations, conflict, fear, anxiety, we often revert to more primitive brain circuits, leading to impulsive or irrational behavior. Think of a soldier in battle, a police officer in a tense encounter, or a child having a meltdown. The degree to which we stay in control or lose it often comes down to how well-developed and well-trained our frontal cortex is under pressure. This is why stress management, sleep, nutrition, and mindfulness matters so much. They support our best self in moments of challenge. 6. Morality, where right and wrong live. Sapolsky doesn't avoid the big questions, like morality. He reveals that our sense of right and wrong is less rational than we'd like to believe. Moral judgments often begin as gut reactions driven by emotion, bias, and group identity, and only later do we justify them with logic. For instance, studies show people are more likely to be morally lenient if they're in a good mood or have just washed their hands. Yes, clean hands can make you feel more morally clean. We like to think we reason our way to ethics, but often it's the other way around. 7. Culture, evolution, and group identity. Zooming out even further, behavior is shaped by culture and evolution. Our brains evolved in small tribal groups where loyalty meant survival. Today, we still divide people into us and them, even based on things as arbitrary as shirt color in an experiment. Culture teaches us what's acceptable, what to fear, and what success looks like. Whether we grow up in a competitive capitalist society or a communal, one affects our values and behavior deeply. Sapolsky's takeaway here is humbling. Most of what we think is individual choice is also cultural software we never questioned. 8. Free will. Or not? One of Sapolsky's boldest claims is this: free will is mostly an illusion. He doesn't mean we're robots, but rather that our decisions are so heavily influenced by biology, hormones, genes, upbringing, and context that the idea of fully free choice is shaky. That realization, while uncomfortable, can also inspire compassion. When we recognize the complex forces behind every behavior, especially bad ones, it becomes harder to hate and easier to understand. Instead of judging harshly, we might ask, what happened to this person that made them act this way? Here are some of the most actionable and powerful insights from Behave. Behavior is layered. Look at what happened seconds, hours, and years before any action to understand it fully. We are not rational beings. Emotions often decide first. Reason follows after. Childhood matters deeply. Early environments shape the brain's structure and function for life. Compassion requires context. When you understand what led to a behavior, you react with empathy instead of anger. Self-control is trainable. Meditation, sleep, exercise, and strong social support all boost our best selves. There's always more than meets the eye. No action happens in isolation. Always zoom out. Behave is not a quick fix or a simple guide. It's a sweeping, multidisciplinary deep dive into why humans do what they do, from kindness to cruelty, from love to hate. Robert Sapolsky blends neuroscience, psychology, biology, sociology, and philosophy into a masterwork that helps us understand ourselves and each other on a deeper level. We are complex creatures, and understanding that complexity is the first step toward growth, compassion, and wiser choices. Thanks for listening to this audiobook summary on Vibery. If you found it insightful, subscribe and explore more on psychology and human behavior every Wednesday. The more we understand our minds, the better we shape our lives.